Hi, everybody. We're going to learn how to make a logo in AutoCAD 2016 today. So you can see I have this one all set up, and we're going to try to replicate that or make something that's sort of like it. Doesn't have to be exact. So here you see I have a few that I've been practicing. Um, did this one first, trying to mess with the V. Didn't like it as much, then went over to this one. Um, Over here worked on the this circle type logo. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's leave this within the view and we'll start working right up here. So the first thing I'm going to do, oh, by the way, on Google Classroom, it tells you how everything needs to be set up. So you should have everything, all your perimeters set up on AutoCAD already due to the information on Google Classroom. So over here we have our line tool. And let's go ahead and start with a 2-inch line, 2 enter, bring it up here, 2 enter again, 2 enter, bring it down, link it up, and there we have our 2-inch square. We want to work within the 2-inch square so that it fits nicely when we go to put it on the layout. So first thing is let's work on doing the perimeter around here. We're going to put an 1/8 inch perimeter around, which basically means we'll shrink this whole thing down 1/8 inch. So the easiest way to do that is the offset tool. Here's the offset tool and select that. First thing it says down here is the distance we want to use. We're going to do 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8. You can see down here in the command line, it'll come up. Sometimes it'll come up over here by the cursor. 1/8, enter. We're going to click this line. We're going to click here. So the offset works like this. You click the line you want to replicate, then you choose which side you want it to appear on. We're appearing on the inside. We click again, and there you have it. Let's do this last line right here. And now to get out of the command, we'll hit the space bar or enter. Either one will work. I prefer the space bar. Now I'm going to teach you how to use the trim tool. We want to trim out these lines here. So here is the trim tool. We'll select that. And there's two ways to use the trim tool. One is you select the line, and that's going to act as like a cutting line. You hit either enter or the space bar to get to the next step. And then you float over whatever you want to trim away, and this little red X appears. And there you have the trim. If you want to do it again, if you hit the space bar, it will remember your last command. Enter and space bar usually work either or. I prefer the space bar once again. But it will repeat the command and remember that you were on the trim tool. If I could float over here, now nothing happens. But if I hit the space bar twice, there you go. So let me start from scratch at that. Here is the trim tool. We'll trim. We're going to hit the space bar. Then we'll hit the space bar again. And trim. Now we can go all the way around once we have this set up. That's why the second technique, where you hit the space bar twice, is my favorite over choosing the line. But I wanted to show you that either one works. So now we have our perimeter. I'm going to make sure that I'm saving. As per usual, make sure you're saving under your DDP file. I'm going to go ahead and save. If I were to do save as, it would come up as, in this case, it's summer DDP because these are my setup for some people for summer assignments. There's logo. We hit save. It's going to say there's already one. We say yes. You could also do, once you have it all set up, you have your path set up, you can do Control S also as a quick way to save. All right, let's work on this circle right here. So this circle, if I were to make this, I'm going to just get a quick measurement of what I did here. If you want to measure something, you select it, right-click somewhere in the dark area, go to Properties, you have all this information. In this case, what we're looking for is the diameter, which is 7/8 as the diameter, radius of 7/16. You can get that information. Let's go with 7/8 for the I'm going to go for 7/8 for the diameter. So here's the circle tool, and you'll see there's a whole bunch of them. I'm going to use center radius. We're going to build right over here. Click and drag out. Now, if you look in the command line down here, it says specify radius of circle or diameter. Now that means you could either click this hotspot here to change the diameter, or you'll see the capital D is blue on there. So if I do D enter, it goes into a mode where it'll enter you can enter the diameter. And we said it was 7/8, so I'm going to go ahead on the keyboard and type in 7/8, and you can see that right down here coming up. Enter, and there's our 7/8 circle right there. Now there's an inner circle here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little more original and eyeball some of these measurements rather than going through all that, just to save some time. So we're going to do an inner circle. Let's just take a second here. Here's the move tool. Might as well show you this right now. If I get this move tool and I click, release, and drag, I'll get a square. If I get the square from the left to the right, it's going to appear blue. If I do a click from the right to the left, it'll appear green. And here's how they work. If I go left to right, it's only going to capture things that are completely surrounded by the blue square. But if I go right to left, if something is halfway in the square, it still captures it. So there's just two ways to do it. If you don't understand, as you use the feature more, it'll become more clear. But I'm going to go to the move tool here and select the whole thing. I'm going to hit the space bar, and now it wants a base point. By the way, this is not me being smart. I'm just reading the command line right down here. I'm going to select the center, and it'll link to the center because remember, when you were in Google Classroom, you set up the O-snap to work. So it'll snap right to the center, and we're going to go ahead and drag that up. And I just wanted that near here, so I had a reference. Again, I'm not shooting to make this exact. I'm just trying to teach you about all the different tools. That's why we do the logo, along with having your own cool logo for your work, original logo. So let's go ahead and put a circle right in the center here. So back to the circle. Again, because the O-snap is on, if I touch the edge, the center point comes up, and I can go ahead and drag that out. And I'm going to basically stretch it out until it looks good to me. I think that's a really good size. Now, there's another circle right here, so I'm going to offset this. So if I hit the offset tool, it again wants to know the difference. The distance. Now you can see this is an eighth that we did earlier. We probably want less than that. Let's do half of an eighth, which is 1/16. Enter. We click the circle, and then we float to the outside of the circle, and we click again. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's hit the offset tool again, and let's see what we could do about getting that circle done. So it wants to know the distance. Let's go 1/8 this time and see what that looks like. Pretty happy with that. Now we want this another one that's it's just a little bit bigger. Let's see what a 1/32 looks like. So we click the offset tool. We go 1/32, 1/32, and click and bring that out. It's a little smaller, but we said we were going to try to be somewhat original, so that works for me. All right, now we're going to put these splits in here. Let's go ahead and we float. We're going to find a quadrant. We're going to bring it over to this quadrant. That's going to give us this line. Let's go ahead and rotate. So rotate tool, the reason I'm doing that is to get this angle right here. So here is the rotate tool, which is right here. We're going to select the object. We hit the space bar for the next command. Again, I'm just reading what's down here in the command line. It wants a base point. We're going to have the base point be in the center. And now what it wants to do is I can either rotate it around like this. If I hit F8 on the keyboard, that turns on the ortho, which gives you perfectly straight lines. But we're going to turn that off. Or I can manually type in an angle. So I'm going to type in 45 degrees, and we get a perfect 45-degree angle. Now, I want a mirror image of this. So I certainly could go in and make a nice straight line like that, and I could use the rotate tool, and I could certainly click on this and then do minus 45 and get exactly what I'm looking for. But why would we do that? That's too easy. I have the opportunity to teach you about another tool called the mirror tool here. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. Here is the mirror tool. And we are going to click on this line right here, space bar, and then it says specify first point of mirror line. Well, I'm going to go to right to the center again, click, and then again, I can move this around, or if I hit F8 and I turn on my ortho, again, I get nice straight lines. I can either pull straight down or I could pull directly to the right or the left. And you can see what it's doing is it's going to mirror the image. So if I click here, let's click right down here. Most important thing to get it to end is it says, do you want to erase the source object? In other words, do you want to keep that original line? I'm going to say yes, so I will not erase. So I can go ahead, I can either type N, enter, or I can click no right down here. Or you could see the last time I used it, I used no. So if I hit the space bar, it'll remember the last command and it'll do no. So let's just go ahead and click this. So now I have these two angles right here. So let's see, what else do we want to do now? Let's go ahead and put those straight lines back in. And now we have a division on the circle. So I have to start figuring out now what's going to stay and what's going to go, and how I'm going to split this up. So the first thing is I do want to keep, again, I said I'm going to do this slightly different. I am going to keep this solid circle in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and get the trim tool. I'm going to hit the space bar one time, and if I float over, I can trim these out. Now, you might say to yourself, why don't you just click it and delete them out? Well, I can't because it's one big long line, see? I need to trim it out, just like this, so that I have the solid circle. So let's go ahead and put a hatch in here. Now, hatch is like the fill tool, and you can put different textures in. For this case, we're going to just put a solid color in, and what you'll see is it appears white here, but on paper, it's going to appear black. Most things, and I use the keyword most, are opposite because we're working basically on our blackboard here, our blueprint. But when we print, nowadays, we print on white paper. So you have to remember things are reversed. Let's go back and let's go to the hatch tool, which is right here. Let's click the little arrow. Now we have hatch, gradient, and boundary. Boundary, I'm not really great with. I don't use that a whole lot, but I use gradient and hatch a lot. Let's go to hatch, and this menu comes up of different hatches. Now, if you click this, it gives you a big list of all the hatches. And yes, you can download more of them, but you'll find that this is pretty adequate for what we're doing in class. I'm going to do the solid hatch. So here's the solid. Now, I have this all selected. If I float in the center, it gives you a preview. See? And again, it works like a fill tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. Then I'm going to hit the space bar. And you'll see that I now have that filled in. I'm going to go Control S on the keyboard. That's going to save everything. Okay. Now, this area is completely black. So what we're going to do, my phone doing crazy things. So what we're going to do is we need to go ahead and trim this out. And we're not going to put anything in here because, again, black means white, white means black. There we go. Now, here's something where I need to think for a little bit. Let's go with something easy. This band right here, that band of what is currently black, needs to be trimmed out. So let's go ahead and trim that. There we go. Saving. Now, the only thing left to do is the way this is kind of split open like this. So we're gonna do two things with the logo here. I realize what I did here. Let's go ahead and let's make this original. But first, I'm gonna copy it. And this is the cool thing about designing. You could make changes right on the spot. Um, in order to do this, I have to go in a different direction. So I'm going to complete this one way, and then I'm going to turn this one into more similar logo as this. And again, I'll explain how I have these things split here. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Let's kind of move a little quickly here. Let's go to the hatch again and solid. And now let's start at the outside, and we're going to fill in the hatch every other on this one. And then we're going to do every other on this one. By the way, with the hatch tool, if you go around the way I just did and did it, all these hatches, if you click on them, they're one entity. See how they're all together? If you don't want that, you'll have to use the explode tool, and we're not getting into that right now. So let me show you how to get that ahead of time. I go to the hatch tool and I go to solid. If I want to have each of these individual on this side, what I would do is I'll click this, I'll hit the space bar, which will deactivate the tool. Then I'll hit the space bar again, which will activate the last tool that you used, and then just kind of go in and out like this. Same thing. Now what you'll see is if I click this, it's individual. Whereas with the outer one, again, I just went 1, 2, 3, 4, and I did the click, and it is one singularity here. Save. So I could go ahead and I could say that's my finished logo, but I want to show you how I put the split in here on this one. So what I did was I left one of these and one of these. So I went out to the trim and I trimmed all of this off. Now, if you want to trim quickly, you can also select large amounts of stuff and trim like this. And then what you'll see is you'll notice the trim's not working on everything. The reason is that these are individual lines. So with those, you just select them and you hit delete. There we go. So when I did this, what I did was first thing I have to do, one more thing, I have to trim this out. So I have these individual shapes that I made, and I went and used this tool. This is called the polar array right here. You select it, and it says select your object. So I'm going to go ahead and select these two objects, and then hit the space bar. Needs a second here. It wants the base point now. So I'm going to float over the center of this like a pinwheel. And then what you have is this chart comes up. Now, you can go ahead, it says items here. If I went ahead and I did 3, let's say, it would switch to 3 items. See how there's 3 of them? If I did 4, you'd get 4 of them looking like this. But the original one, I believe, is 6. Yeah, it's 6 of them. So let's go back. 6. And there you have it. So spacebar to exit that. First thing is to save. And now we go back in and we use the hatch tool on solid. Go. And I think I'm going to make this one solid entity. So I'm not going to hit spacebar in between. I'm going to just go like this. Work my way around. Fill it in. And it's just adding these together as one giant shape right now. Spacebar to end the command. And of course, Control S to save. And so now we have this logo made. So let's go ahead and get the move tool. Select it, spacebar, float over to the center. And again, if that center is not coming up, you're not touching the edge first. Or if you're not seeing any symbols, either your OSNAP has been turned off, or you have to go into your settings and you have to make sure that you have the right thing selected. For this kind of stuff, I just hit select all, and that works for me. All right, so now we're going to click, and something's gone wrong here. See, I can't go up and down. I can only go left and right. Anyone want to guess why? Correct. I have my OSNAP turned on. So I can either click it down here, or I like to hit F8 on my keyboard. That turns the OSNAP off. Let's go back to move, select it, spacebar, grab it by the base point in the center, and now we can go in any direction we want with it. So let's go ahead and we'll pop it right there. And I just eyeballed where it went. All right, so the next thing is we need to put the name in here. Now, you don't have to do any typed material in here. You don't have to use text. I'm just using text because eventually you will have to know how to do it, and this is a way that I teach how to use text. So I like it. I like Verdisco Industries, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's go over to here. Now, the first thing people like to do is they like to do multi-line text in my class. Don't know why. It's not going to work for you. You want to do single line text. Trust me, it's the better way to go. If you do multi-line text, it means you're not paying attention. So please start paying attention. All right, single line text. We click that, and the first thing it says in the command line is select a starting point. I'm not going to work inside here. If you noticed, I like to work outside of the box and then insert stuff in. So we're going to click, and then it says specify the height. So I don't like this swing here. I want to put on the ortho because I want nice, perfectly straight lines. So it says to specify the height. So I prefer to type in my height. You certainly could click your mouse and eyeball it. And you could see the last thing I used here was 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. I could hit spacebar. It'll remember my last command. In this case, I'm going to do 1/4, type it in manually because I'm teaching. Enter. And then the next thing it's asking for is the rotation angle. What angle do you want this thing to shoot off at? Of course, you want it to be straight and level. Now, in this case, that would be 0. And you can see it already remembers that I did 0 last time. I'll enter again. I can hit the space bar. It'll remember my last command, which was 0. But because I'm teaching you guys, 0, enter. Now you've got the flashing cursor. So for me, I'm turning on my cap locks. I'm going to type in Verdisco. Looks like I overlapped it with this. That's okay. To end this, I'm going to click anywhere. And then I'm going to hit escape to get rid of this. And now it looks like I need to move it. So I can click it. There's a little blue line right here. I can drag it straight down. If you prefer, you can use the move tool. Go ahead and select it, space bar, and then grab it from the same spot. Move it. By the way, this only goes up and down and left and right now because I have the ortho turned on. All right. So let's go ahead and move this into here. I'm going to do it with the move tool, actually. Ortho is turned off. There is our link. And I'm going to put it right here, knowing that I'm have to fit industries down there. Now, the beauty of the computer is it's not pencil or pen. You don't have to erase it or live with it. You could always move stuff around later. Now, you see I've overlapped here. let me show you a little trick. Here's my excuse to show you the scale tool. That's right, the scale tool. I'm going to select the scale tool. The command line says select object, so here's the object I want to select. Space bar to get to the next command. Now we float over here and click. And now I'm not holding the mouse wheel down. I clicked and released. If I very slowly drag this way, I can size out manually. Just like that. Now, another way to do it, let me do Control Z to get back where we were. Scale tool, select it, space bar, select your base point. Now, another way to go is you can manually type in what you want. Now, anything below the number 1, for example, 0.5, is going to reduce the size of your object. 0.5 would be a 50% reduction. Anything above the number 1 is going to make your object larger. So 1.5 would give you a 50% increase in size. So what I'm going to do is I want to shrink this down slightly. So I'm going to do 0.95, enter, and I look at it and I say, am I happy? And then I say, yes, I am happy, so I leave it there. Now, we need to make something. We want to make this little subtitle, Industries. So rather than going through all of that annoyance of going here and single line and all that, I'm going to just go ahead and click on this one time. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to Copy Selection, float over the base point, click and drag down. Now I have 2 of these. Oh, bless me. All right, so let's do this. Let's double click. Click, click. I can do it. Actually, that's a little cheat. I'm going to go ahead and drag, select it. Now I'm going to double click. And if you do that, you see it gets surrounded by this blue curtain, if you will. Once I click inside the curtain, you can see this becomes editable. So I can change this to Industries. So on cap locks off, I'm going to do just a capital I and then Industries. And enter. Now we double check the spelling. Now I don't know about you, but I do a lot of spell checks because without that I do create a lot of I do make a lot of spelling errors. All right, so we placed that there, and I don't like the font on this, so I'm going to double click on this. No, I'm not. That's a lie. I'm going to click on it once, then I'm going to right click in the black area, go to Properties, and then we're looking for text right here and style. Now, if I click where it says standard and then this little arrow, you should be able to run through the fonts. If you don't, there's something wrong and it needs to be fixed. And I can't help you because this is just a video, but perhaps in class I could help you, or we can get the ITs in to help you out. I think I like this one. So we'll stick with that. X that out. Go back to the move tool here, and I think I want to move this over a little bit. And I think I actually want to shrink it down a tad also. So I'm going to get the scale tool, select it, space bar, go to the base point, and click and drag it out. That works. Eyeballing is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Move that down a little bit so they kind of cross over a little. And you can see I did it in my original a little differently. Oh, no, maybe I didn't. It's a little bigger, but I think it's good like that. All right, we almost have this done. What else did I do? It looks like I put these lines in. So let's go ahead and do that. That's good because that gives me a chance to show you this. You've been working with the line tool a little bit. You also have the draw tool. And over here, you have construction lines and rays. Those are generally used as guidelines, but we're going to do something different with it this time. Here's the ray tool. Let's go off of here. Now, again, I want nice straight lines, so F8. That is going to turn on our ortho. Click once, click twice. To get out of the command, you hit the space bar. To bring the line back, click once. Make it again. Then you can see you could work a little bit faster this way. I think what I'm going to switch up, just for the sake of making the video a little shorter, is you can see I put all these little extra lines in here. I think I'm going to just leave the these two lines right here and make it a little bit more original. So let's go ahead and we need to trim out this, and we want to trim this and this out so that it continues to the border here. And I think I'm going to leave these here. All right, let's go to hatch, and this time we need to go to gradient. So how do we get back to gradient? Over here it says solid. We're going to use gradient. Now you could see I have these different types of gradients, and there is a big list of how they can be done. But I think I'm going to do this one where it goes from one color to the other. Currently it's set from blue to yellow, but what I want to do is I think I'm going to do black to white. I don't know if it's white to black or black to white, but let's try it out. Now if I float inside here, and I get my preview, I'm going to say, yes, I do like that. Space bar, get out of it. Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm going to leave it just like that. Then I'm going to go to this area, and I'm going to click here. Now, I think I might have to make a modification, but let's take a look. We're going to go back to, I don't know why it switched back, but we're going to go back to gradient. Click in here. Oh, okay. Actually, that looks really cool, but let's not do that. Without a boundary, the hatch just keeps going until it finds a boundary. So what I need to do is I'm going to go back to the line tool. By the way, I got back by going to Home tab and then the line tool. What I need to do is I need to create a boundary here. So now this is a closed area, and I need to create another boundary right over here. So now you have this area as a boundary, which will create a solid shape. Let's go back to the hatch tool. Oh, no wonder why. I went to hatch instead of gradient. There we go. Gradient. And let's click here and space bar and hit the tool again and fill in here. Oh, that doesn't look right. We have to put the gradient in. So all you have to do is click it and delete. Let's go to gradient and fill that in just like that. And you know what? I could do a lot more, but I think just for the sake of the video and making this, wrapping things up so you don't get too crazy. I think I've been recording for like 15 minutes now. I'm going to show you, you know what I'm going to do? I think we're going to just end this right here. We're going to save. And then I'm going to create a separate video on how you get your object into the layout, and also how I got my logo to be up here in the corner. But we're going to make that the next video. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, and please watch the next video on how to do those things. Goodbye.